yes. Happy Thursday, my fabulous, fantastic, furry friends. So let's talk about my favorite subject, other than Gus. But how is Gus, my new puppy? Well, I'm so glad you asked.
Gus, come. Gus, sit. Good boy. Good boy.
Maybe learn how to use your phone. Anyway, tonight's topic is the media and how they love to put the thumb on the scale when it comes to the midterm elections, or any other election for that matter. New study by the Media Research Center, or MERC, finds that nearly 90% of recent coverage of Republicans on the ABC, CBS, and NBC evening newscasts turned out to be negative. I know, that's about as surprising as Jesse Waters chugging Rogaine. Gets to the bloodstream faster. Now, these networks usually give Republicans more bad press than poison lawn darts for preemies, but now they've jacked it up, which is especially weird given it's the Republicans who are out of power. They're the underdog, aren't they? And generally, it's the incumbents who have a track record that should be picked apart. But unless it's Joe's nose, no one's doing any picking. Or eating. Rather than focus on the Dems' failures on the economy, crime, and the border, they actually hammer the challengers' criticism of that stuff instead. Suddenly, it's hysteria to point out such flaws to the powers that be. In the old days, that's what journalists used to do. But now it's just Republicans, and then they pay for it. In the period between September 1st and October 26th, also known as prime ferret mating season. Get out your binoculars. Only 6 positive statements were made about Georgia Senate candidate Herschel Walker versus 50 negatives. Meanwhile, the left-loving media failed to lay a glove on Herschel's Democratic rival, Raphael Warnock, who may have more skeletons in his closet than Jeffrey Dahmer after Fashion Week. Meanwhile, there were only 2 positive statements for Pennsylvania Senate candidate Dr. Oz compared to 9 negative. And how much you want to bet those 2 positive statements were his name and his occupation? And then there's poor Carrie Lake running for Arizona governor. Not a single nice thing to say about her. Hell, they could at least compliment her bone structure. Have you seen how square her jawline is? No wonder all my Lego figurines keep hitting on her. Her face is like a gorgeous, perfectly solved Rubik's Cube. She's the world's sexiest graham cracker. Maybe it's just me. Meanwhile, look at what they do for Joe Biden, the guy who put corn pop in his place and Preparation H on his BLT. It's called a BLTH. In 2018, he accounted for 48% of all campaign airtime. To be fair, though, most of it consisted of Joe downing a pint of Chunky Monkey. But this year, the media couldn't give a rat's ass about the dawdling dope. They turned off the cameras because they realized less coverage is better than facing the deceitful reality they created. So between September 1st and October 26th, there's just 34 minutes of Biden coverage. And half of that was him just trying to get his coat on.
Sorry I'm late. The Alliance War took me and my members longer than expected.
It's okay. How long have you been playing the game?
Just a month.
I'm afraid this is not going to work out then.
I have 50 million power already.
You must have got that by spending a lot of money.
I've never spent money in the game.
I'm afraid this isn't going to work out then.
I'm the #1 player in the...
Not his fault. Clearly that day he didn't get his recommended daily allowance of sniffed ponytail. Comes in a jar. So is it any surprise that Republicans aren't responding to polls? It's something called non-response bias, which sounds like me when I let Kat's calls go to voicemail. But it's when people don't respond to surveys about their choices because of all the negative coverage. And it makes sense. Why would you respond to a poll if everyone says you're evil? I mean, unless you're like Kilmeade sitting alone at home in the dark by himself drinking gin out of a bottle, watching Three's Company reruns, and dying to have some, if any, human interaction. And by the way, how do you know if the caller is really a legitimate pollster and not a twisted neighbor looking to take a dump on your front lawn? I've seen it happen because I was the neighbor. The New York Times calls non-response bias a worrisome pattern because now they aren't able to discern what key states and districts where Dems could face an upset on election day. But hey, you reap what you sow, bitches. Did I just say that out loud? So now they can't tell whether the races will be close or if they'll get blown out like Dana's hair at her high school prom. Her hair was so high, her curling iron got a nosebleed. But why should conservatives respond to polls when people say stuff like this about them?
A historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
You get that? If Republicans win, children are going to get killed. That guy is a historian. How the hell did that happen? Did he send away for a I'm a historian card from the back of a Wheaties box? If he could be a historian, then I could be a pharmacist. And you don't want that. But God, I do. Then there's this creep.
I read a poll just yesterday that white Republican suburban women are now going to vote Republican.
Why?
It's almost like roaches voting for Raid.
Yeah, I like how, I gotta say, I love how she looks up as though it's coming to her like an intellectual thought. She'd been waiting all day to say that, comparing white women to roaches. On The View, they call that Thursday. Here's a comparison for you, Sonny. You're dumber than sorry. That's not a comparison at all. I really do need to get some sleep. But in this climate where the Dems and media collude to demonize millions of voters, it's no surprise that those on the right keep their mouths shut. And then come Tuesday, just like a certain Tuesday way back when in 2016, the media and the Dems won't know what hit them. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He coined the phrase, "What's cooking, good looking?" Former CIA operative and host of Black Files Declassified on Discovery Science Channel, Mike Baker. He's created more turnovers than a pastry chef. Former NFL player, Jack Brewer. She spends more time in makeup than Worf from Star Trek. Fox News contributor, Kat Timm. I don't know who that is. And he can see everyone's house from up there. My massive sidekick in the NWA's World Television Champion, Tyrus. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Although you made it sound like sitting at home drinking gin out of a bottle was a bad thing.
Yes.
Now I'm completely rethinking my hobby.
Yeah, it's Kilmeade's only thing. Isn't this kind of I mean, I know that the poll isn't surprising, or that actually the research isn't surprising, but we have to be reminded that this is a form of meddling in elections by putting your thumb on the scale.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's been going on for a long time. Obviously, polling is a long and honored tradition, but I think it's never been as bad in terms of just its lack of ability to predict anything than it has been over the past decade or so, right?
Yeah.
And it is exactly because what you pointed out, which is, again, we get these calls, and I do the exact same thing. I say, I'm good, thank you. Or there have been a couple of times, I hate to admit it, when I've just screwed with them.
Yeah.
And I know that my own little ability to screw with a pollster is not going to sway the whole, survey result. But there's just something about it. The politics, I don't know that we've ever seen it as dysfunctional and uncivil as it is now. And I know I don't need to sound so gloomy.
That's okay.
But it's very depressing time.
I love screwing with pollsters. I often will hide Frank Luntz's toupee. The green room. Amazing. Sometimes it'll run off on its own.
Dragged off by your dog, Gus?
Yes, Jack. Good to see you. It's been a while. Been hanging in Florida.
Yeah. Florida.
Yeah.
Good though.
Yeah, you happy to be back here in New York?
I am. I'm just hoping those pollsters, every time they call me, Gray,
Yeah.
I pick up the phone and I'm thinking to myself, did they tap my phone? I'm a black conservative. Did they tap my phone? And I hang up right away.
Yeah. But you ever get these calls? Because I've never got a call.
I've gotten, I think, 3,
Yeah.
and I hang up.
Yeah.
I'm serious. You never know what to expect this day and age. Who's calling your phone? People see you on TV. You can't make the comments that you want to make. And so I just try to stay away from it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I hope the silent majority comes out in droves next week.
Yeah, I mean, but it's going to be hard to tell. Speaking of Tyrus, you showed me an interesting text, which was
Yeah, so
hilarious.
they don't just call me, they text me.
Yeah.
And can we cue this up? Can we get this on the big screen? Where is it?
Yeah.
So Joshua from where are my glasses at? They put it in the furthest one for me. All right. Hi, George. I guess we're using government names now. It's Joshua again with Black Voters Matter. Election day is Tuesday. Will you build power with us and be a voter? Hashtag we won't black down. Clever. I'm a black Republican. Cool. Thank you for sharing your view. Have a good day. He was like, ew, and hung up. Like, that's exactly, so they don't care if the brothers vote.
Yeah.
They only care if we vote in their tent.
Yeah.
So that's why no one wants to talk to them.
Yeah.
But I was in a weird mood and decided to respond. And I have a sneaking suspicion Joshua looks more like my sweatshirt.
Yeah. I don't want to make
No doubt. And Greg, this is crazy.
You just got to
I
tell
almost the same text.
Holy
I got one too. Defend the
Mike
black
Baker.
vote.
Yeah.
Defend the black vote. It's about making sure black men don't let our community down. So they're like guilt tripping us into voting for these policies. But how they find us? Both.
Yeah.
Apparently we stick out like sore thumbs.
I think you're onto something when you said they tap your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Baker's confusing. I would think I've met a brother named Mike Baker before. You know,
Yeah, that's
it's in the name.
Yeah, it is in the name.
It is in the name.
Yeah.
Kat, do you have any
Kat,
texts
you get
that you
a
can
text?
actually show us? Just scroll past the pictures.
You wish. Look, I've certainly engaged in desperate end of times hyperbole before myself, but never when things are going well. Like not when things are going my way. And the kids are gonna die, and then the raid comment. Like, look, white suburban women don't always love me. Their dads sure do. But they don't always. It's okay. I love you guys anyway. But to say that like wrote just a raid, it's like saying that by voting for a Republican as a white suburban woman, you're killing yourself. That is extremely desperate end of times hyperbole. And if you had some other way to go or something else to say, you probably wouldn't go with something that ridiculous.
Didn't you enjoy the way she looked up? Like
It was her best work.
Yeah,
Like,
she was waiting all day in the shower. She was practicing it.
She wanted our version of Gene to come out with a microphone for her, open it in the case so she could drop
it.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh.
As if, I just put this turn of phrase together.
I just
Here it
came up
is.
with this. It's
Yeah.
like Roach is voting for raid. It's like, I bet you if you Google that statement, 100 people have said it before her.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've solved a lot of world's problems. I love.
So that's it? End of show?
Yeah, that's it. I'm heading out early. I got stuff I got to do. So it's going to be about another 50 minutes or so of just silent, awkward silence, so we can let Mike talk, but nobody wants to hear that.
No.
One disconnected sentence after another.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe. Again, this guy was already wanted for. If you're the Democratic Party of New York, you are calling every union leader and hack in the state and just shoveling cash to people to keep Lee Zeldin from winning. Zeldin is the Republican congressman from Suffolk County who looks like he could be the next governor of New York, a state that went for Biden by 23 points. So what's that about? Well, simple. Violent crime. It's out of control, particularly in New York City. It's destroying the city. For example, around 5:30 a.m. this morning in New York, a homeless man with 25 prior arrests, a suspect in previous sexual assaults, who was out on the street. That man raped and robbed a 43-year-old woman who was out jogging in the West Village, a very nice, probably the nicest part of the city. Again, this guy was already wanted for 2 prior sex crimes. In one of them, back in April, he sexually assaulted a different woman who was out for a jog. In October, he tried to rip the clothes off a 48-year-old woman walking on FDR Drive. Then he tried to rape her. So why was this guy walking around this city this morning? And the real question is, since this guy just raped someone in the West Village this morning, where was Kathy Hochul, the great defender of women? Oh, she's a woman. She's a big feminist. Did Kathy Hochul say anything about this today? Anything? It's one of the biggest issues going to midterms. No, she said nothing. She talked about gun control, which New York has had for 60 years. It has stricter gun control than almost any state. It's nothing to do with gun control. This is rape. And it's gone way up in New York under Kathy Hochul. She should be ashamed and she should lose. A lot of people feel that way. A new Pew survey of registered voters showed that 82% of Black Democrats believe violent crime is a, quote, very important issue. You know who doesn't care about violent crime? People who don't have to deal with it. Only 33% of white liberals care. What explains the difference there? Larry Elder is a former candidate for governor of California. He's also the host of the Larry Elder Show on the Epic Times. He joins us tonight. Larry, thanks so much for coming on. So you'd think, like, if you are a feminist candidate and empower women and girl power and all that stuff, and you're Kathy Hochul, and people are getting raped in huge numbers in your state, you would say something about it, maybe?
Well, you think so, and that poll is very telling. 82% of 82% of Black Democrats believe crime is a very serious problem. Only 33% of white Democrats feel that way, and as you pointed out, that's because they don't have to face the consequences. But this is not all that surprising. There's a website called policemag.com. And those who were self-described, Tucker, as very liberal were asked, how many unarmed Black men did the police kill in 2019? Half of them thought the police killed 1,000 unarmed Black men, and 5% of them thought the police killed 10,000 unarmed Black men. Now, the answer, according to the Washington Post database, was 12. So they're not concerned about crime, but they're very, very concerned about the alleged systemic racism against the police, which is why you have all these DAs all around the country, many of them backed by George Soros money, soft on crime, cashless bail, letting bad guys out on the streets because they believe that they're victims of society, as opposed to people who are victimizing other people. Most of them are Black and brown people living in the inner city.
Well, yeah. And I'm just wondering, I mean, the Republicans like Lee Zeldin who are running on this message are doing really well. Why isn't every Republican, this is a civilizational issue, why isn't every Republican running on it?
Well, all the ones that I've talked to, and I've been around the country on behalf of people like Carrie Lake and people like a woman named Caroline Levitt, who's running in New Hampshire, and crime is a big issue all around the country, and it should be. But Tucker, I want to talk a little bit more about this white liberal thing, because white liberals are often a clear and present danger to Black people. It was white liberals who pushed the welfare state that has incentivized women to marry the government and men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility, to the point now where you have 70% of Black boys entering and girls entering the world without a father married to the mother. It was white liberals that pressured banks into lowering lending standards. So when we had the recession, a whole bunch of people got wiped out. Black net worth fell dramatically. These are all white liberals. Let me just make a quick point. One of my friends is the economist Walter Williams. He wrote a column once where he issued a proclamation forgiving white people of all the bad things they've done in the past, so that white liberals can stop acting like fools, he said, because you're hurting us.
Malcolm X was right about that.
Welcome back to the Big Saturday Show. It's time now for Big Saturday Flops, our picks for the biggest fails of the week. I'll go first. All right, so you had that scandal with the fishing cheating, but now we have another scandal that America is going to be totally watching. The professional cornhole world has been rocked by a Baggate cheating scandal. So one of the top ranked teams at the American Cornhole League World Championships in 2022, Guy, and you're a sports guy, they got in trouble for using beanbags that were illegal because they were too small, and there's $15,000 on the line.
Is this a sport or is this a drinking game?
It's both.
Yeah, a little column A, column B.
Why do you have to have it be one or the other?
Well,
if you
it's
can't
shocking.
drink while you're doing it, it's not a sport.
Okay, but what about the cheating?
It's sad. I condemn it.
Wait, Katie, can I say something about this scandal though? Because
they're looking into it now.
Yeah, I've been following it.
The bags.
Right. So apparently, one of the teams complained because they thought that the bags were too small, and then the other team was like, "All right, well, I want your bags to be checked too," and their bags were not regulation either.
All the bags are off. They have to be a very specific regulation, size and weight. And I'm not a professional cornhole player, but I also think we know enough that you shouldn't cheat.
I am not athletic, which is going to come as a surprise to no one. I'm pretty good at cornhole, though, so I was deeply interested in this
It's a great
story.
game. Okay, Guy.
All right, Georgia Democrats have been crying voter suppression ahead of the midterms. You know it. Watch.
The extreme MAGA element of the Republican Party to suppress the right of voters and subvert the electoral system itself.
Voter suppression is alive and well. We're watching it happen right now in Doherty County.
Don't let anybody tell you your vote doesn't count. It does. Here's why I know it counts. There's some folk working really hard to make sure you don't use it.
We heard from
but
all
I
those
thought it
same
was the
folks.
most
Jim
fair
Crow,
and free
President Biden
election.
called it worse
right?
than Jim Crow, the new Georgia law. Well, look at that number on your screen right now. Well past 2.2 million ballots already cast early in the state of Georgia after the law was implemented. That is a smash record in a midterm cycle. The lying about Jim Crow and the suppression has been exploded before our eyes, and I think that's somewhat satisfying.
Republicans save democracy, Charlie. What do you got for us?
Yeah, the ultimate flop this week is John Fetterman rallied his supporters earlier today. His backdrop of American flags go away.
Oh, man.
I would say these guys are snake bit, except that it's all of their pro-crime, anti-economy policies that have them in the trouble that they're in.
That's an amateur campaign move, not to bring the sandbags, right?
A critic,
campaign event. And flags can't hit the ground. We all
And
know
the wind
that.
blows.
A critic would say those flags are running away from him. I'm not saying that. A critic
America
would.
is running away from
My big Saturday flop looks good on the outside, rotten on the inside. It's daylight saving time tomorrow. And even though everyone will gain an hour of sleep, that's the good part. I think it should be eliminated completely. And the Senate actually passed a bill to make daylight saving time permanent, and then it's stalled in the House. The bill is called the Sunshine Protection Act, which I think is actually positively adorable. If Congress's approval ratings at like 18, 20%, if they want to bump that up, get this bill passed.
I'm from Arizona. We've never done this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I
So I'll
know.
just take a lead from the Grand Canyon State. We love the sun there, love the sunshine.
I wonder
hate
how
the
many
darkness
states
at 4 p.m.
don't do daylight saving.
I think we're the only one.
But
fact check me. I'm not sure.
That is an incredible stat. Also, a lot of my friends have babies. Daylight saving time for little ones is not good for the mom. It's very tough. This hour absolutely flew by. It was great to be with all of you. 3 more days?
2 days.
2
2
days.
and a half. 2.5 days.
2.5 days. All right, that does it for us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews